vis-à-vis gas. You have to, in many cases, you have to build the LNG facilities and the distribution of pipelines within the countries, and they require investments. And in order to attract that investment for the pipelines, for the internal distribution, you have to have a good market design, an area which IEA is an expert of. So therefore, it is good we have goals and pledges and this and that, but what happens in the real life, especially in some of the countries and what they pledge, there are some inconsistencies. So for gas, again, to make it attractive, to make it flexible, would be of great importance for increasing the chances of gas in terms of being the next power plant to build, unless governments take some decisions, regulatory measures, to favor this fuel over another one. Now, since we are going to talk about gas a lot, as I said, I am sure Sheriff will tell you how great the gas is to find a counterbalance, and that, let me tell you another challenge of gas. I said gas to coal competition is one. Another challenge is gas to renewable competition. In many parts of the world, renewables are growing very, very strongly. As a part of our new association, new friendship with Singapore, tomorrow I am going to launch to the international press and the colleagues here our medium-term renewable market report, which was authored by two of my colleagues here, Mr. Frankel and Mr. Baha. And they look at the next 5 years, what happens in the renewable markets. I can tell you that every year we have to revise our projections for renewables upwards. We have the same arm length to all the fuels. We really don't care. We look at what happens in the markets, why we are revising up our forecast, because cost is going down, becoming cheaper, solar and wind. Second, government support in many countries are getting stronger. Now, when we look at the electricity generation worldwide, there is a decent increase, global electricity generation increases there, and we also see that the increase of electricity generation from coal and natural gas were decent. Natural gas was a bit stronger, the increase compared to coal. But the biggest increase comes from renewable energies, a huge increase. I had the pleasure and honor to come to SIEW several times. It is 9th time, and I think I must have attended at least 7 times. And if I'm invited, I'll be happy to come on a continuous basis. And I remember our renewables discussion 6-7 years ago. It's very different than today. Ladies and gentlemen, renewables are not anymore a romantic story. It is a real hardcore business. So therefore, we have to look at the renewables very carefully, and the fuels which are competing with renewables should not underestimate the competitiveness of renewables across the world. 5 years ago, early 2000, share of renewables in the global electricity mix was 19%. And in 5 years of time, it will be almost 30%, a huge increase. And I may well think that Paolo and his colleagues may even next year revise up these numbers as a result of the stronger government support and stronger drop in the cost. Some of you may think that the driver of renewables is Europe, United States. To be honest with you, until I saw the numbers, I thought the same. It is completely wrong. The champion of renewables is China by far. Soon, India, Brazil, Latin American countries are coming on board. Therefore, gas is growing, will grow stronger in the future. In all our scenarios, gas is growing very strongly, but has challenges, cost challenges vis-à-vis others. And of course, the increasing competitiveness among the fuels is a good news for the consumers. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me finish my words in the last 2-3 minutes I have, and I will be very happy to hear the views of my friend and also hear your comments and questions. In terms of oil markets, yes, we have a lot of oil in the market now. Stocks are huge, oil stocks. And with the current demand-supply balances, we think the markets will rebalance second half of next year. Of course, if there's intervention, this rebalancing may take place earlier. We are seeing a huge wave of LNG coming to markets. It is good for the importers. Their hands will be stronger when they negotiate with the companies, with the exporters. And this comes in a time where the gas demand is rather on the weak side. So huge growth from the supply and rather weaker demand growth last year, this year, and the next few years to come. Energy and climate cannot be separated from each other. Why? Very simple. When you look at the climate change, two-thirds of the emissions causing climate change come from the energy sector. Therefore, without solving the problem in the energy sector, we have no chance whatsoever to solve our climate problem. So therefore, when we look at the challenges we have two challenges in the next years to come. One is on the energy security side for oil. I mentioned to you that the investments are going down substantially. Demand is growing in a healthy manner. It may well provide some surprises for us in the next few years to come as a result of markets getting having much more challenging pressures. And the second one is the climate change and air pollution. I mentioned climate change, my colleagues mentioned climate change many times, but let me say a brief word on air pollution, which is a forgotten, ignored, but a very important issue. Today, ladies and gentlemen, 6.5 million people die prematurely because of air pollution caused by the energy sector. 6.5 million people. It is not very popular as the climate change, but it is a very important environmental challenge too. And the good news is, if you take a measure to reduce the air pollution, in many cases, it also helps to reduce the climate change problem. One of the reasons why we see major move from China in terms of clean energy technologies is the very drive to reduce the air pollution problem. So therefore, we think these two challenges, energy security and the environment, comes together with the energy-related developments. And finally, I finish where I started. This is my first year, exactly this month, first year, to be the head of the International Energy Agency. And 1 year ago, we decided to open the doors of the IEA to emerging countries, especially to those in Asia, but elsewhere as well. And we are ready to support all the countries who are interested in their efforts to bring their countries to a more secure and sustainable and the competitive energy sector future. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Birol, we invite you to take your seat, sir, as we'd like to have the plenary session at this point in time. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to join Dr. Birol up on stage, we now invite co-founder and chairman Tellurian Investments, Mr. Sharif Suki. Let's welcome him with a round of applause, shall we? And again, as we did earlier, we have our moderator. He is the anchor correspondent of CNBC. We welcome back up on stage Sri Jagaraja. He's right back there. He's making his way up right now. Now again, ladies and gentlemen, we invite you to pose your questions. And if you just joined us as well, you'd like to know that we have our questions posed on Pigeonhole Live. Many of you have been participating, and for that, we'd also like to thank you as well. Well, Sri, we're going to hand you over the fort very soon. Do enjoy the session, ladies and gentlemen. Sri, over to you.
I think that's a first to hear everybody put down their forks and listen to what Fatih Birol had to say. He silenced the audience there with his comments about renewable energy. Fatih, let me start with you, first of all. There's clear momentum now, and there's clear impetus. It begs the question, implementation and the targeted, nationally determined contributions, the emissions targets that all the signatories of the Paris Accord now have to hit. How much confidence do you have that the individual country-specific emissions targets will be achieved?
I have a lot of hope, but not a lot of confidence, I should tell you, because for two reasons. One, those targets or pledges are not mandatory. Okay, so they are pledges, they are not, you have no major responsibility legally if you don't do it. This is number one. Number two, even those pledges are fulfilled, 100%, global temperature will still increase 2.7 degrees Celsius. And what we said in Paris is that 2 degrees is the target, and we may want to go even well below 2 degrees. Why 2 degrees? The scientists told us if the temperature increase is about 2 degrees, we may have a planet which is more or less similar to what we have now. But the difference between 2 degrees and 2.7 degrees is not something that you just take your jacket off and adopt it. There's a huge, huge implication there. So therefore, even those pledges are fully fulfilled, I don't know if it's a good English or not, fully implemented, we will still be not reaching our climate targets. So this is one thing. The second thing is, if I may say, renewables, I mentioned about the electricity generation growing very strongly. But the energy sector is not only electricity generation. There is, for example, transportation sector. Today, transportation sector is more than 90% cars, trucks, jets run by oil products. And the renewables replacing oil products in the transportation sector is not an issue of today, not tomorrow, and maybe the day after tomorrow. So therefore, we have to look at the entire energy sector. In the power sector, we see major developments, very good in terms of renewables. But if you look at the entire energy sector, there is we have a different picture.
So there are clear challenges, Fatih, is what you are saying, in the goal by 2050, by the middle of this century, carbon neutrality. How do we get there then? And in terms of the challenges for the developing world and emerging markets, you already highlighted China. There are great strides taking place there, and what occurs to me is that mortality rates have been rising precisely because of what you said, precisely because of the impact of
Air pollution.
of pollution and carbon intensity. China now really gets the story now and is taking demonstrative action. What needs to be done elsewhere in the developing world?
I think there is a homework for developing world and also developed world as well, for both of them. Now, renewables we talk about, but there are other technologies we need to make use of, in my view, and depending on the country's context. For me, the number one most important policy option is improving energy efficiency. You know, in the world, there are some countries who have oil resources, and some countries don't. There are some countries who have natural gas resources, some others don't. There are some countries who have huge solar potential, some don't. But all the countries have energy efficiency potential. We have to make the most out of this. And there are countries here like Japan, like Singapore, who made a lot of achievements in that respect. So this could help a lot, and in our view, this could energy efficiency potential, if used right way, solve the 40% of the problem. Renewables, efficiency,